Hello, friends. This is Robert Band. Today I have a very special guest, Lisa Peskin of Business Development University, and we're talking sales. Are you happy with your sales? And if not, what can you do about that? So, Lisa, why don't we jump right into it? Give us a 1-minute intro on you and Business Development University.
So, Robert, thank you so much for having me. Business Development University started 13 years ago, and it was all about helping maximize the performance and potential of both salespeople and sales managers. So we do outsourced sales management, we do customized training, and we do a lot of one-on-one coaching, but everything we do is designed to really improve performance, get more prospects in the pipeline, increase close ratios, and ultimately grow revenues.
Excellent. Well, thanks, Lisa. Tell me, what should a top consideration be when hiring salespeople?
That's a great question. I was running a 40-person sales force over at ADP, and I had to keep that sales staff totally staffed with a 30% turnover. So we interviewed a lot of people. And one of the best predictors of future success is past recent success. So when you're hiring salespeople, don't look for just past success, but past recent success. You also want to find somebody that can deal with adversity, because salespeople are going to deal with a lot of no's. And I want somebody that's going to have a really great work ethic. So I really look at the qualities, good communication skills, but the best predictor is past success.
Okay, Lisa, so you want proof of past success. Do you ask them for their W-2? Do you check references? Do you call their customers, past customers? How do you validate past success?
Well, it's a lot done through the interviewing process, because quite honestly, a lot of companies will only give you the date they started and the date that they left, and will not give you the key information that you're looking for. So you do want to see if they've got performance reports that they can produce for you, but you also want to look at the resume for quantifiable results that you could challenge during the interview process.
Okay. Do you have like a #1 sales interview question that you like?
Well, I always start off with my very favorite, which is, tell me about yourself. Go all the way back, as far back as you want to. Walk me through what you've done in your career, highlight the major accomplishments, and then walk me into why you're here today. By doing a big old open-ended question like that, they have to sell themselves. You want to see them walk you through the different positions. You take good notes. You don't interrupt them. You want to see quantifiable results. And then you want to make notations for yourself, not on the application, but on a separate piece of paper of questions that you want to dig a little deeper with.
Great. Thank you. So tell me, what does good sales training for a new rep or new employee look like?
Well, I'll talk about sales training on a general basis, and then we can get into new employees. Because new employees, it's a little bit different. You have to have a very clear onboarding process with a 30, 60, 90-day game plan. You need clear metrics. I'm a big believer in probationary periods for new people, 90-day probationary periods. But when you look at training on the whole for salespeople, the first thing it is, has to be customized for the particular business. Because the most important thing is you want to create aha moments. Not only aha moments, but give them actionable items that they can take and implement the next day. So I'm a big believer in using stories, analogies, and tools to create aha moments. You want to make sure the training is fun, interactive, and is infotaining, so people will participate and enjoy. But the clear thing is define next steps. Because oftentimes people go to a training and they come out all excited, and then what happens if there's not the proper reinforcement, they're going to snap back to doing it exactly the way they did it prior.
I'm sure that process is an important part of sales. What would you define as a decent sales process? Like in my past, I knew people who did cold calls from 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. Monday, Wednesday, Friday, or whatever. They had a very defined process. How would you, I'm sure not every business has the same process, but talk about process and the importance of it and what makes for good process.
Well, there's two ways you could refer to process. You could refer one in the way you just explained, where it's their game plan. What activities should they be doing? How should they be structuring their days and their weeks? And how should they be going about doing their job and filling the pipeline? I look at that as activities. When I look at process, I look at the process. Once I've got a suspect or prospect sitting in front of me, or a client or a center of influence, what's the process that they take them through? And there's a lot of tools that people could find on my website at businessdevelopmentuniversity.com. It's under BDU Utensils. And one of them is, how do you run an effective first prospect meeting? What I find often is when people are having trouble with their close ratio, it's because they're not doing the beginning of the sales process properly. And so we're very big believers in having a step-by-step process where we have a really good discovery, where most companies don't really have a discovery tool. When we go and we work with companies and helping them develop that discovery tool, and then make sure they're not only able to uncover qualifying information, but key hot buttons, and setting up defined next steps. So then the presentation, objection handling, closing is the rest of that sales process.
I'm going to bet that many business owners hire salespeople, and they're experienced salespeople. They assume that they come with good habits and good process, and so is that the case? And if so, what do you recommend to the average entrepreneur when it comes to onboarding new salespeople that they hire and meeting their expectations?
The biggest mistake I see time and time again is CEOs, once they're ready to hire their first one or two salespeople, they choose somebody that they don't think needs managing. They pick somebody that they think are really good to go because they don't necessarily have the time, the background, the wherewithal, or the skill set to properly manage a salesperson. So they assume that by hiring a seasoned salesperson that they could leave that person alone. That's a critical mistake, because the fact of the matter is the first year of any salesperson, whether it's a seasoned salesperson or a brand new salesperson, it's the hardest time. And you need to make sure that you're giving them all the developmental tools and skills and knowledge to be as successful as possible. Because what happens is they hire somebody, they pay them a decent salary, 3 to 6 months in, they're not producing at the level that they want them to, and then all of a sudden they cut them short. Sometimes they're on the 50-yard line, sometimes they're 20-yard line, and sometimes they're on the verge of being successful. So many companies will hire us to make sure that we're not only onboarding them properly, but setting up a well-defined game plan, accountability, and structure to be able to make sure that we're getting the most production out of them as possible.
So what I took from that is that sales management is not easy if you haven't done it. What makes for a good sales manager? Because a lot of CEOs are their own sales manager, but and so they need the same sales management skill as a professional sales manager. So what qualifies somebody to be a great sales manager?
That's a fantastic question. And time again, I've seen so many companies that prove the Peter principle. They take their best salesperson, they promote them into a level of sales management, and they're not competent in that role. because there is a very big difference between the skill sets we need as a salesperson and the skill sets of a sales manager.
Right.
The key to sales management is being able to affect somebody else's performance and not just your own. And again, there's a one-line job description. It's about maximizing performance and potential of all the direct reports. There are 4 times that a manager can influence their direct reports or CEO. 1 is during the one-on-one sessions, 2 is during the sales meetings, 3 is during field rides, and 4 is during all the ad hoc interactions. So what we find is when CEOs are trying to manage their sales associates, they don't necessarily have the one-on-one sessions, they don't necessarily have the sales management meetings, they never travel in the field, and all that's left is the ad hoc interactions, which quite honestly isn't enough. I had a rep this morning that told me that their company does not believe in training and development, that all they do is pretty much throw them out to the wolves and hope that they'll be successful. And I see that time and time again.
Okay, Lisa, what are good sales metrics for a company to track? What are the must-knows? Like in finance, you got to know your gross margin, your net margin. In sales, what should every CEO know off the top of their head with regard to sales metrics?
The first and most important metric that every CEO in business needs to track is close ratio, which is defined as proposals to sales. Now, I'm going to make a little caveat. Some companies will only produce a proposal if it's well qualified, and then we would need it from appointments to sales. But if that close ratio is less than 30% for business-to-business sales, I can guarantee you that there's something going on with sales process. So that's first and foremost the key metric. The other metrics that are extremely important to define is average size sale, the smallest sale, the largest sale. I like defining both clients and prospects in terms of singles, doubles, triples, home runs, and grand slams, because not all sales are equal. So we need to look at that. One average sale for one salesperson might be significantly higher than another salesperson. The other one that is extremely important is sales cycle. We need to understand the average sales cycle for every sales rep. So if we're looking at metrics, those are the 3 most important that I'd be looking at. But of course, on an ongoing basis, we want to be looking at year-to-date, quarter-to-date, month-to-date numbers, not only for activities, but results.
Okay, great. Data is within the 4 walls of the business, but it's not always easy to pull out of those walls at the push of a button. How do you recommend companies maintain the data necessary to extract these metrics that you're talking about?
Fantastic question. Every sales organization needs a CRM, customer relationship management software. The biggest out there that most people are familiar with is a Salesforce. Sometimes that's overkill for some smaller organizations. There's HubSpot, there's Zoho, there's Pipedrive, there's numerous ones out there, but you need some kind of CRM to not only be able to input the information, be able to extract the information and set up dashboards.
Okay, thanks. So if a CEO is doing their own sales management and they're decent at it, how much time should a CEO be spending with their sales people, and in which ways? You mentioned a little while ago a few, like 4 activities or 4 touch points in sales management: field visits, in-person presentations, ad hoc, and others. But what can a CEO do to devote the right amount of time and the right activities with their sales people?
Well, that's a great question, and there's another question behind this. Should this be something that the CEOs are doing themselves, or should the CEOs be focusing on other aspects of the business and getting professionals who really know how to drive sales doing that. And that's why so many companies will outsource that function over to us, because for a CEO to do it properly, they need at least 1 hour per person per week with one-on-one sessions.
Wow.
In order to prepare for those sessions, they need at least 15 minutes on the front end to prepare for those sessions and document it on the back end.
Wow.
Then they need the time to do the sales meetings, go out in the field and answer all the calls, debrief on all appointments, and pre-call plan on all big appointments.
Okay, so that is probably an amount of time that most CEOs don't have, but we'll get to what they can do about that, which is outsource, just like they do other things like finance. They can outsource. The sales department is responsible for increasing sales, and the finance department is responsible for increasing profits. And oftentimes, these two departments are at odds with one another. How do you recommend that these two functions get along so that sales brings in profitable business that bolsters the bottom line?
Fantastic question. So I have a company that does promotional items. And so the salespeople are paid on gross margins as opposed to total revenue.
Okay.
And it's reported on a monthly basis. So they not only see their numbers, but they see their margins on a monthly basis. And they are tracked and incentivized based upon their margins.
Great. So we only have a couple minutes left. Tell us, what does BDU, your company, Business Development University, do? You've gone through now and you've mentioned some things that if a company doesn't have all these things in place and doesn't have the time to devote to, each sales rep and their sales department and process, yes, you're an outsource, you can do it part-time, but give a little of the things that you do to get sales where an entrepreneur wants them to be.
Thank you for asking that question, because I did not start this business to train anybody, to coach anybody. It was all about driving sales. I spent 12 years over at ADP, and I'm a numbers girl. So it's all about driving the numbers. So the first and foremost, not every company is the same. Not every individual is the same. And before we could figure out how we're going to help out, we've got to go in and do what we call triage, whether it be on an individual, sales team, or company basis. Triage is basically a methodology that I developed that helps us ascertain what 3 areas that, if improved upon, will have the biggest impact on performance. Once we do that, then we could figure out what the game plan is. Is it a coaching opportunity? Is it a training opportunity? Is it an outsourced sales management? So we go in and we match up our developmental programs based upon the gaps that we uncovered during the triage. Once we do that, it's so important. Most salespeople are winging it every day without any rhyme or reason to what they're doing. So when we start with companies, we make sure every individual on the sales team has a well-defined 30, 60, 90-day game plan that has very specific activity and result goals. Then we do everything we can to fill that pipeline with good qualified opportunities. We strategize on those opportunities to help keep that close ratio as high as possible. And then we make sure that we have the ongoing 30, 60, 90 so that we could not only hit but exceed goals.
And you, if you're involved, part of what you offer is those weekly meetings with the reps, right? So you're literally talking through their pipeline, what they're doing. This triage identifies a couple key things that you feel that person needs, and then you're spending an hour a week per person on developing them. So it's good for them, and and sales of the company, but it's also a professional development benefit that the company is providing for their salespeople, right?
Absolutely. The fact of the matter is, in order to drive revenues within sales, we've got to make sure that the sales function is working properly, not only keeping repeat business, upselling and cross-selling, but getting enough net new logos coming in the door. So we do act as the sales manager, work with the sales folks on a weekly basis, not only with scheduled but ad hoc calls, and then we report everything into the C-level suite, the CEO, or anybody else that might be involved. So they could stay up here, but still are perfectly understanding exactly what's going on at our level so that they understand what's going on, but they don't have to be down there in the weeds.
All right. Well, this is tremendous insight into the sales and helping entrepreneurs get their sales where they want it to be. Because in my conversations, I'd say many are not satisfied. So Lisa, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Any final words before we conclude?
Well, my only final word is I'm more than happy to have discussions. I promise you I'll never sell you anything. If I can help you out, great. If I can't help you out, there's a good chance I'll refer you over to somebody that can. But we're all about driving sales performance and potential and really figuring out what's going to work with the specific companies that we deal with. And certainly check out the website, businessdevelopmentuniversity.com. And don't hesitate to link into me as well. You'll get a good flavor of what some other clients say about the work that we've done with them and the impact that we've had on their business.
Okay, great. Well, thank you again. Friends, this is Robert Band, your business finance expert. Would you like the feeling of having great financial management? Then let me put the right pieces in place for you. Remember, one tip could be worth millions, and profits today become fortunes tomorrow. So don't let them slip through the cracks. Have a good day. We'll talk to you next time.
Thank you so much.